mission, you're immediately demonizing women, which is a constant pattern in this world of which we want no part. But the truth is that the pediatric AIDS dimension is something, Mr. President, that you've thrown the foundation into, which was terribly neglected before you began to enter that arena. And I remember seeing you in Lesotho when you were dealing with kids, and it may be worth saying something about.
Well, let me say, first of all, on the prevention of mother-to-child, the thing that I have seen is if you have some sort of basic network out there and you get the word out, mothers don't want their kids to be born with HIV. I mean, they're very responsible. All you have to do is empower them to take this medicine. And I will say again, one of the things that I think we have to do, I agree with what you said, Wafa, about not wanting to get AIDS in a fight with somebody else for limited dollars. But one of the things that we see is if you build elemental healthcare networks in very poor areas where they don't exist, everything gets better. You know, the AIDS program gets better, the malaria, tuberculosis, maternal and child health. Somehow somebody shows up and some tropical diseases get treated that didn't get treated. I mean, I think this is an opportunity to overcome the part of the problem that the activists had with President Obama's budget. I think that for whatever it's worth, I personally strongly disagree with the condemnation, because if you look at the circumstances that they're facing with the budget and the other options we have to increase care, including taking the food security budget and setting aside some for nutritional programs that specifically target people with HIV and AIDS, and especially children, and a lot of other things that can be done. I think we can do more with this budget than people think. And you got in Eric Goolsbee, I think you've got a guy running this PEPFAR office who's really committed to doing the right thing. But anyway, I think I think that the mother-to-child transmission, every place where in our HIV AIDS people, and Anil Soni's here today, and maybe some other people from our initiative, they're really working hard on this. But what we find is if you create an opportunity, they do show up. If you say, look, this is a problem here, you just empower people. They show up. They make good things happen. They say, okay, test me, give me the medicine. You know, we don't have, when your children get involved, you don't have many of the reservations that still obtain about the stigma and the other things that you previously thought. At least that's our experience. So I know I sound like a broken record, but my honest belief is we do have nutritional problems. But the medical treatment for the kids is about $60 a year now. The mother-to-child transmission treatment, is, you all know, is not very expensive. What we got to do is to find an affordable and predictable revenue stream that will allow the building of these healthcare networks to continue. I think in the developing world that's the most important thing. Now here it's a different story, but there I believe we can make breathtaking progress on mother-to-child transmission if you have the people out there in enough places. And essentially you got the Global Fund, you got all, and PEPFAR, to be fair, is increasingly spending some of its money on health systems. Unitaid, which was set up to buy diseases of the poor, you know, funded primarily by the French airline tax, decided originally they were going to be just 100% in the medicine business. They give us a very small percentage of the overhead to help build out the networks to deliver the goods. But that's something I think we should all be thinking about. Do we really has our laudatory focus on medicine or nutrition or anything else undermined our awareness that there has to be, and we're not talking about expensive systems here, but just elemental systems for medical distribution, checking on the adherence, freezing the blood sample or refrigerating the blood samples and transporting them, just stuff that doesn't cost a lot of money but makes all the difference in life and death out there. That's what I think we should be focusing on more in the developing world.
Mr. Clinton, will you speak with Secretary Clinton about fully funding PEPFAR and the Global Fund? Flat funding means we won't achieve universal access if people will die
Well, that's a good speech, young man, and I appreciate it, and I actually intend to speak to her about it. But what would you do if you were the president? Maybe you'd say, well, he shouldn't spend any money in Afghanistan. But we have this. Wait a minute. Wait. I wouldn't say that, by the way. But I'm very sympathetic with the problem he's in. He just spent $800 billion, and the Congressional Budget Office today said it created between, I think, 600,000 and 1.5 million jobs. He's in a terrible bind. He has to get this money from China. They're trying to reform the healthcare system. I personally believe that you can't have universal health insurance in a way that does not benefit people with HIV and AIDS. I think if we get universal health care out there, it will help a lot to fund the network that we need that will improve care for people with HIV and AIDS. And I haven't talked to anybody. I didn't know anything about this, I must tell you. I respect your request. I'm embarrassed to tell you I didn't know what the budget request was until I started doing the preparation for World AIDS Day. So I have no idea what the White House response is, but I know this: if they pass that health care bill, you're going to get a lot more money spent on HIV and AIDS. And if we pass the Food Security Initiative, we're going to have a lot more nutrition aid for people with HIV and AIDS around the world. Yes, I will speak to them, but I want to tell you, the president's had a nightmare economic situation, and the Congress is coming down on him day and night while he's trying to get universal health care, which would help people with HIV and AIDS. And he's also cut back on some of Hillary's development budget, which I didn't like either. We all don't like it, you know. But I've been there, and somehow he's got to deal with this. I will speak with them. I think that they may think America's done so much more than everybody else they can slow down a while. I don't agree with that. But let's look and see where there's other money that we might get. Let's look and see what if we shifted some money into the Global Fund, where every dollar we put up is supposed to be matched by $2 from other sources. Are they prepared to do that? Should we do more multilaterally in this regard? Let's look and see whether, if the Food Security Initiative that the President has basically charged Hillary with developing and implementing, how much of that money could be used for people with HIV and AIDS in the poor countries. I think you've got a legitimate point. Look, the last thing we need to do is back up. We're only treating 42% of the people who need this medicine to stay alive, and a smaller percentage of the children. And every time I give a speech and I say that our partnership with Unitate is treating 2/3 of all the poor children in the world who are getting medicine, and people clap, I make them stop. Because then I tell them what a lousy percentage it is of the total number of kids who need the medicine to stay alive. So I am extremely sympathetic with what you said, but I also have to defend the miserable position the President and his budgeteers are in under these circumstances. And just remember, at least in America, if we get this health care thing, it will improve AIDS care. It will. If we change the Medicaid guidelines to comport with the testing recommendations, which they can probably do by executive action. I bet Kathleen Sebelius can do that on her own. That'll make a huge difference. There are other things we can do, and I promise you, now that I am aware of this, I will do my best to squeeze more blood out of the turnip. And I thank you.
Well, I want personally to thank the obstreperous intervention from, I think, a Health Gap colleague, because you're a hell of a lot better than the moderator.
Keeps us from being so boring, too. It was really good. Thank you.
Any other heckling spasms that you would like to invoke? Please don't. Oh, my God, I didn't.
Syringe exchange.
Well, let's take a moment and raise. Let's take a moment then and raise the fact that we're now entering into the concentrated epidemics of men having sex with men, sex workers, and injecting drug use, and the harm reduction programs. And this fellow is talking about needle exchange, Mr. President.
Let me just say this. First of all, we should also give the administration credit for changing this policy on people with HIV and AIDS coming